At Christmas dinner, my son announced, "You are a burden. We want to live without you." I sat there stunned, staring at the festive table where the overcooked turkey was still smoldering. My fault entirely. Those words struck me like a dagger, because I had sacrificed everything for them. My home, my company, decades of my existence. But that instant was not the conclusion, but the start. They believed they had eliminated the weight, yet they had no clue about the dreadful outcomes that lay ahead. Before we proceed, please subscribe to the channel and share where you are tuning in from in the comments. I should have sensed trouble when Sophia scarcely glanced up from her phone as I stepped into the kitchen. Holiday tunes floated from the living room. Silent Night, drifting gently through the speakers I had purchased for them the previous year. The dining room table sparkled with her grandmother's porcelain, crimson and golden decorations reflecting the glow from the chandelier. Everything appeared flawless, too flawless. "Need assistance with anything?" I inquired, folding up my sleeves. The kitchen aroma was of cinnamon and herbs, festive spices that typically made me feel welcome. Today, they seemed alien. "Just watch the turkey," Sophia mumbled without eyeing me. "The timer will sound in 15 minutes, I agreed, thankful for a task to occupy me. The past several months had been tough, treading carefully, attempting to remain unobtrusive in the home I had assisted them in acquiring. But this was Christmas, time for family. Surely matters would improve today. The timer's sharp beep startled me from my reverie. I had been observing the snowdrift outside, recalling other holidays when Ethan was young, when he would rush into the kitchen, wondering if Santa had arrived. As I opened the oven, dark smoke poured out like an omen. "Oh no, oh no!" I seized the tray, but it was beyond saving. The turkey rested there, charred and destroyed, resembling a scene from a catastrophe film. The smoke alarm started its shrill wail. "Jasper." Sophia's tone sliced through the disorder. "What have you done?" "I'm sorry. I struggled with the smoking tray, trying to rescue any part, anything. Perhaps we can trim the scorched sections." Her expression turned icy, not furious, but frigid. Wonderful. Just wonderful. Ethan emerged in the doorway, his look changing from interest to revulsion in moments. "Seriously, you ruined Christmas dinner." "I can repair this," I stated, my voice breaking. "I'll go purchase another turkey, or we can order food." "Don't." Ethan's tone was emotionless. "Just don't." We gathered at the elegant table regardless, the burned remnants of the turkey serving as a centerpiece of defeat. I continued apologizing, attempting humor about my culinary abilities, but the quietness thickened with every passing second. Sophia poked at her mashed potatoes. Ethan gazed at his plate as if it had insulted him personally. This charred turkey," Ethan said at last, his voice laden with something far greater than spoiled food, "is simply the final trigger." My fork shook in my grasp. "Ethan, you've turned into a burden for us. Jasper." The words landed like physical strikes. "We desire to exist without you." The room appeared to spin. Holiday music still played softly, joy to the world. But the lyrics seemed like ridicule. I glanced at Sophia, seeking any hint of opposition, but she agreed with his declaration. "That's correct," she affirmed, her voice as steady as frost. "We require our own space, our solitude. We're grown-ups, and we shouldn't have to look after you." Look after me, I had sold my enterprise, my residence, provided them with all so they could enjoy this ideal existence. And now, I was the weight. "I don't comprehend," I murmured, my voice hardly audible over the merry songs. I believed we were kin." Ethan's chuckle was harsh. "Kinship doesn't require us to forfeit our joy for yours." I remained there, fork halted midway to my lips, observing them dine as though they had merely chatted about the climate. The Christmas tree lights sparkled in the adjacent room, all those presents beneath, enveloped in glossy wrapping and bows. I had acquired most of them. The burned turkey cooled on my dish as Silent Night repeated, the sacred lyrics wafting through air dense with disloyalty. I discovered myself in my chamber without recalling the path there. The residents had fallen silent, save for the subdued clatter of plates below. Ethan and Sophia were tidying up, their tones low and relaxed, as if they hadn't just demolished my world during the meal. On my bedside table rested a framed picture from 4 years prior, Ethan's housewarming celebration. We all beamed, arms encircling one another, champagne flutes lifted. I appeared so proud in that image, so assured I had chosen wisely. The gentleman in that photo had no inkling of what awaited. I had constructed Caldwell Builders from scratch, devoted 35 years transforming it into something significant. When Ethan phoned that autumn day in 2020, voice strained with irritation over property costs, I didn't waver. Not for an instant. "Dad, we discovered the ideal home," he had mentioned, "but the market is wild. We need 500,000, and we're lacking by 250,000. I recall sitting in my office, eyeing the company emblem on the wall. Caldwell Builders, founded 1985. Constructed to endure. Constructed to sustain. I contacted my attorney that afternoon. "Are you certain about this?" Robert had questioned, examining the transaction papers. "This is your life's achievement." "Jasper, my son is my life's achievement," I had responded. Those initial months residing with them had been positive. Ethan would seek my advice on home enhancements, and I would feel valuable once more. Sophia would ask me to assist with shopping, and we would chuckle about Ethan's poor dietary choices. I possessed a role, a position, but gradually, things altered. My recommendations became disruptions. My tales became tedious monologues. My existence became bothersome. "Jasper, we're hosting friends this evening," Sophia would state, not quite meeting my gaze. "Perhaps you could occupy yourself elsewhere." I began consuming breakfast at 5:30 instead of 6:30 before they descended. I would embark on extended strolls through the area, passing time until I deemed it secure to return. I crafted an entire schedule aimed at rendering myself unseen in the dwelling I had helped procure. The photo appeared to taunt me now, that self-assured man who had liquidated everything to aid his son. What would he think of me presently? Concealing in my chamber like an undesired visitor, I could hear them conversing downstairs, their voices blending with the noise of flowing water. Were they debating me, plotting their subsequent action, or had they already dismissed the dinner episode, advancing with their lives while I lingered here, submerged in recollections? I lifted another photo, Ethan as a lad, perhaps 7 years old, donning a hard hat at one of my building sites. He had been so thrilled to be present, so eager to assist Daddy in constructing homes. Where had that young boy vanished? The house groaned around me, easing into the evening. I glanced at the clock. 11:32 p.m. Christmas was formally concluded. I should attempt slumber. Hope that the morrow would deliver an apology, some clarification, some method to mend this. But as I reclined, still clad in my holiday sweater, I heard something that constricted my chest. Laughter. Ethan and Sophia were chuckling about something below. their tones light and unburdened. The sound ascended through the floor like a blade, severing any remnant hope I had clung to. They weren't concerned about me. They weren't remorseful. They were alleviated. I awoke with Christmas morning hope adhering to me like a persistent vision. Perhaps the previous day had been a hallucination, induced by excessive eggnog and seasonal tension. Perhaps Ethan had merely been having a rough day, and we could discuss it rationally as adults. I brewed coffee as usual, robust with a dash of milk. The kitchen seemed serene in the dawn light, snow continuing to descend beyond the pane. I arranged 3 settings at the table, positioned the newspaper next to my mug, and endeavored to feign that my hands weren't trembling. The coffee tasted sour, but I compelled myself to sip it. Standard routine, standard morning. Everything could still be standard. Ethan's footfalls on the stairs accelerated my heart. This was the moment. The instant he would express regret, explain that he had been overwhelmed, that he hadn't intended his words. I composed my face into what I hoped was an inviting grin. He materialized in the entrance, hair disheveled from rest, wearing the sleepwear I had gifted him for Christmas. For a brief moment, I glimpsed the little boy who used to seek my shelter during storms. Then his countenance stiffened, and that boy vanished eternally. "Why are you still present?" His tone was flat, factual, as if inquiring about the weather. I thought I clarified myself last night. The words assaulted me like freezing water. No good morning, no recognition of the prior night's severity, just this chilly, nonchalant harshness. "Ethan, I fought for words. I thought perhaps we could converse, resolve matters. There's nothing to resolve." He advanced to the coffee machine, intentionally turning away from me. Sophia emerged behind him, her hair impeccably arranged despite the early time. She eyed the 3 place settings and emitted a small, acerbic laugh. "Some folks truly ignore hints, don't they?" she remarked to Ethan, as though I weren't seated there. "I suppose we must be more straightforward." More straightforward, I rose, my chair grating against the floor. "You informed me I was a burden, and you desired to live without me. How much more straightforward can one be?" "Then why are you still here?" Ethan's query was delivered with exact precision. "Why are you complicating this unnecessarily?" I stared at my son, this individual I had nurtured, forfeited for, cherished without conditions, and beheld a stranger, because this is meant to be my home as well. "Your home," Sophia's voice oozed contempt. "This is our residence. Jasper, we purchased it. We maintain it. We reside here. I provided the funds. You provided them to us," Ethan interjected. Past tense. "It's no longer yours." The conclusiveness in his voice fractured something within me. I had been grasping at hope, at the chance of redemption. But observing their faces, cold, resolute, allied against me, I finally grasped. This wasn't rage. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was a choice they had made jointly, meticulously, and intentionally. "I understand," I uttered softly. "I'll gather my belongings." Neither attempted to halt me as I proceeded to my room. My luggage rested in the closet, dusty from 4 years of neglect. I packed it systematically. Garments, personal items, my father's timepiece, several photos. My whole life condensed into one bag. At the front entrance, I hesitated for one final glance at the home I had helped acquire. The living room with its impeccable Christmas tree, the dining area where we had shared numerous meals, the kitchen where I had prepared coffee each morning for 4 years. None of it belonged to me anymore. Perhaps it never had. Through the kitchen window, I could observe Ethan and Sophia watching me. They didn't gesture farewell. They didn't approach to bid goodbye. They merely observed, awaiting my departure. I ventured outside into the chilly December morning, my breath creating mists in the freezing atmosphere. The door shut behind me with a gentle snap, but it resounded like a thunderclap. I was without shelter. At 65 years old, I stood on a sidewalk with all my possessions in one suitcase. No destination. The chill pierced my coat as I lingered on the pavement, suitcase grip becoming slippery in my perspiring hand. December 26th in Springfield, Illinois, 18 degrees and dropping. I needed to move, to contemplate, to locate warmth before my digits numbed. Lodgings were costly, and I would require something permanent. Apartment searching would demand weeks. Deposits and background verifications and accounts of why a 65-year-old man was abruptly without home. The enormity of my plight struck me like a tangible load. Then I recalled Benjamin Hayes. Benjamin had been my business associate for 25 years, the reliable counterpart to my bold ideas. When I sold Caldwell Builders, he had acquired my portion and maintained the operation. We had remained companions, but existence had drawn us apart. When had we last conversed? August. September. My dignity battled with urgency as I retrieved my phone. How do you convey to someone that your own son evicted you on Christmas? How do you make that appear anything but pitiful? The phone rang twice before his familiar voice responded. Jasper, happy holidays, pal. How are you? Benjamin, my voice faltered. I require aid. The kindness in his voice shifted to worry immediately. What's amiss? Are you injured? No. I'm standing outside Ethan's home with a suitcase and I have nowhere to proceed. Silence. Then, what occurred? They requested I depart yesterday. They claimed I was a burden and they wished to live without me. Good Lord. Jasper, are you earnest? I wouldn't jest about this. Naturally. You can reside here. Come immediately. Do you need a ride? No. I'll hail a cab. Thank you, Benjamin. I'm sorry to... Don't apologize. Just arrive. Eleanor's preparing lunch. The cab journey through known districts felt dreamlike. I had navigated these roads for years, erecting houses, forming homes for families. Now I was without one myself, viewing the world smear past through tear-streaked windows. Benjamin's home appeared identical, humble brick colonial, well-kept but not ostentatious. He must have been anticipating me because the front door opened before I could rap, Jasper. He embraced me, and for a moment, I felt whole again. Enter. Enter. You're chilled. Eleanor appeared with a cup of hot coffee and a worried smile. We prepared the spare room. It's modest, but it's cozy and secluded. The space was compact, but ideal. Single bed, chest of drawers, window overlooking their garden, fresh linens, a reading light, a feeling of refuge I hadn't experienced in months. Now, Benjamin said, perching on the bed's rim while I unpacked. Recount what truly transpired. I proceeded to explain the entire tale. The overcooked turkey, Ethan's frigid announcement, Sophia's sharp comments, the morning's ultimate verification. Benjamin's expression darkened with each detail. Your own son, he murmured. After all you did for him. I keep believing I must have erred somehow. I confessed. Perhaps I was too engaged, too visible. Perhaps I truly was a burden. Nonsense. Benjamin's tone was resolute. You sold your company to help him acquire that home. You gave him all, and now I possess nothing. You have this space for as long as necessary. You have friends who value you, and you have choices, more than you realize. I settled on the bed, sensing the plush mattress below me, surveying the simple yet inviting area. For the first time since the previous day's meal, I could inhale without my chest feeling compressed. Through the window, I could view Benjamin's garden, the patio we had constructed together 12 years ago, the plot where Eleanor cultivated vegetables each summer. Normal existence persisting while mine had shattered. But I was secure now, temporarily perhaps, but secure. The spare room felt like a haven as I meticulously positioned each item from my suitcase into the wooden chest. My father's pocket watch went on the nightstand, its familiar heft in my palm a solace I urgently required. The photos found spots beside it. Ethan as an infant, his first school day, his university commencement, remembrances of happier times when affection was mutual. My clothes still bore the scent of Ethan's home, that pricey laundry softener Sophia demanded. Even now, expelled and overlooked, I was encircled by echoes of the life I had forfeited. My phone vibrated against the chest surface. Autopay notification, $100 charge to account ending in 5821. Comcast broadband services. Ethan Caldwell account. I gazed at the display, perusing the alert twice, then thrice, the sum, the service, Ethan's name. The insight struck me like a blow. I sank onto the bed's edge, phone quivering in my hands. They had cast me out, labeled me a burden, made me feel worthless. But they anticipated I would continue funding their comfortable way of life. My mind commenced listing the automatic deductions I had arranged 4 years ago to assist them in settling. Comcast broadband, $100. Satellite TV Deluxe, $150. HomeGuard security, $70. Streaming bundle, $50. Combined Allstate property insurance, $200. Utility support, $140. Nearly $2,000 every month for 4 years. I accessed my banking application with fingers that no longer trembled. They trembled with intent now. The automatic payments area displayed the incriminating roster. 14 various services, all for Ethan's location, all depleting my funds monthly while I existed as an unwelcome visitor in my own son's dwelling. Independence, I whispered to the vacant space. They desire independence. I began with the broadband. Comcast's site made termination remarkably simple once you located the correct options. Reason for termination, I chose relocation and entered no longer dwelling at service site. Verification message. Your Comcast broadband service will terminate on January 5th, 2025. Next, satellite TV. The deluxe package with all sports networks and film channels Sophia desired. Terminate. HomeGuard security. The setup that made them feel protected in their ideal home. Terminate. One by one, I methodically dismantled the monetary base of their easy existence. Each termination felt like reclaiming a fragment of my honor, my self-esteem, my authority. The streaming platforms, property insurance, utility aid. Verification messages inundated my inbox like a virtual cascade of fairness. My phone revealed the ultimate total $1,080 in monthly commitments terminated. Effective dates varying from instant to 3 weeks out, based on each firm's guidelines. I sat there clutching my phone, surrounded by verification messages, experiencing something I hadn't since Christmas dinner. Command. Jasper. Benjamin's voice summoned from below. Lunch is prepared. I eyed my reflection in the spare room mirror. For the first time in days, I saw something beyond a shattered elderly man. I saw someone who had just initiated the first stride toward imparting a crucial lesson about gratitude. Benjamin's dining area felt warm and inviting. Family images adorning the walls, a table bearing the soft marks of years of communal repasts. Eleanor had made vegetable soup and toasted ham sandwiches, comfort fare that tightened my chest with thankfulness. "You appear altered," Benjamin noted, ladling soup into bowls. "More grounded, perhaps." "I made some monetary modifications upstairs," I stated cautiously. Eleanor handed me a sandwich. Sometimes seizing control of what we can aids us in feeling human anew. Benjamin examined my face. "Regarding seizing control, you remind me of Michael Donovan. Recall Michael, we collaborated on that retail center project 3 years ago." I nodded. Michael had been a solid woodworker, reserved but dependable. Michael endured something comparable with his daughter. Benjamin proceeded, settling into his seat. He had assisted her in buying an apartment in the city, relocated to aid with costs, 32 years old, and she regarded him as employed assistance. What transpired, I asked, though something in Benjamin's inflection implied this narrative had intent. Well, Benjamin's eyes assumed a narrative sparkle. Michael was covering $900 monthly toward her loan, plus provisions, bills, her vehicle coverage, the entire spectrum. She and her partner behaved as if he was this encumbrance cluttering their area. Eleanor shook her head. "Some individuals simply don't recognize what they possess." "One Wednesday morning," Benjamin continued, "Michael quietly annulled everything. No theatrics, no declarations, just ceased paying." I leaned nearer. And 8 weeks later, she was frantic. Loan payment rejected. Vehicle coverage expired. Power disconnected for 4 days. She had to secure an additional position at a department store. And her partner finally had to obtain steady employment instead of his independent advising. Did she deduce it? Benjamin's grin was content. "Oh, she deduced it. All right." Arrived at Michael weeping, regretting, confessing she had taken him utterly for granted, implored him to return. And did he? On his conditions. Mutual regard. Joint household choices. Gratitude rather than demeanor. Benjamin took a morsel of sandwich. Michael's residing there now. More content than in years. My heart pounded. How long before she realized the loan payment was the alert? But Michael said the truly revealing instant was when her high-speed broadband disconnected and she couldn't operate from home anymore. Eleanor replenished my soup bowl. Sometimes folks need to face repercussions before they can value what they possessed. Benjamin observed me attentively. "Jasper, what precisely did you do upstairs?" I found myself smiling, genuinely smiling. For the first time since Christmas, I annulled about $2,000 worth of monthly services I was funding for Ethan's home. "Good for you." Benjamin's endorsement felt like warmth. How long before things become uneasy for them? Broadband disconnects January 5th. Security setup likely fails around then. The coverage annulment takes 45 days. But the remainder? I computed swiftly. 3 weeks. Perhaps less. Eleanor appeared worried. "You're not being harsh, are you? I'm being instructive," I declared. "They wish to live without me. I'm merely fulfilling their desire." Benjamin rose, invigorated. "This warrants a planning meeting. Care for a stroll, I think clearer when mobile." The afternoon illumination was already waning as we readied to venture out. But I felt more vigilant and directed than in months. I possessed a strategy now. Moreover, I had evidence that my strategy could succeed. "One thing Michael informed me," Benjamin stated, donning his jacket, "was that forbearance was essential. Allow them to unravel the issues independently. Don't clarify. Don't alert them. Just permit natural repercussions to instruct. I fastened my coat, sensing the weight of my phone in my pocket, my phone brimming with annulment verifications. I can be extremely forbearing when required. The frigid January breeze nipped at our faces as we strolled through Benjamin's district, our breath forming tiny vapors in the icy dusk. This was the sort of middle-class zone where I had erected scores of homes during my building career. Unassuming dwellings with meticulous grounds, where residents took pride in their possessions. "Tell me about their finances," Benjamin inquired, as we passed a brick colonial I had helped construct in 1992. The actual figures. I had been pondering this all week. Ethan earned $60,000 annually overseeing distribution for a shipping firm. Respectable occupation, but nothing exceptional. Sophia works part-time at some luxury spa. Maybe $20,000 in a strong year, but it's erratic. So approximately $80,000 combined. Benjamin reckoned. What are their fixed costs? Loan is $200 monthly. 2 vehicle payments, some about $700. Credit accounts probably $450 minimum payments, knowing Sophia's purchasing tendencies. I paused at an intersection, gazing down the road where 4 of my former homes stood. Without my $2,000 monthly input, they're deficient $900 to $200 each month. Benjamin whistled softly. They've been existing beyond their resources, relying on you to fill the void. The fact is, I said as we veered onto Oak Avenue, I don't believe they even comprehend how much I was subsidizing. Ethan likely views those invoices as simply being settled somehow. He never had to contemplate the source of the funds, which signifies they have no notion of what's impending. We walked past a dwelling where I had fitted custom shelving 18 years ago. Mrs. Lee still occupied it, her parlor light warm against the winter gloom. Ordinary people leading ordinary lives, valuing what they held. "Walk me through the schedule," Benjamin requested. "Broadband disconnects January 5th. That's next Monday. 12-day grace ended yesterday, so they'll awaken without connection. Security setup probably darkens the same day. Streaming platforms, I checked my phone. Those conclude tonight at midnight. How long before they contact you?" "Ethan will call the moment the broadband fails. He operates from home Tuesdays, and he'll freak when he can't connect." I felt a somber contentment envisioning his bewilderment. Sophia will go mad when the streaming halts. Benjamin laughed. "And you know all their account details. I established everything 4 years ago. Account codes, payment schedules, providers. I know their online existence better than they do." We had completed a full loop around the district, past structures that signified decades of my labor. My addition to this society. Each one reminded me that I had created something meaningful, that I had worth beyond what Ethan and Sophia opted to perceive. "Jasper," Benjamin said as we neared his front steps, "what you're undertaking isn't cruel. You're instructing them the distinction between autonomy and reliance." I keep assuring myself that's accurate. They demanded autonomy while staying wholly reliant on your monetary backing. That's not autonomy. That's enjoying the benefits without the costs. The step light emitted a cozy radiance as we ascended. I felt more composed than in months, clearer about my aim. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about instruction, about repercussions, about esteem. My phone rang just as Benjamin reached for the entrance. Ethan's name displayed on the screen. I eyed Benjamin, who arched a brow. It's only been days. Services aren't severed yet. "Perhaps he's calling to regret," I said, though I didn't trust it. "Or perhaps he's calling because something else failed, and he needs Father to repair it." I stared at the phone, its relentless ringing piercing the tranquil evening. For 4 years, I had answered every summons, hurried to resolve every issue, supplied for every necessity. Tonight. I let it ring. The voicemail alert emerged moments later. I flipped the phone downward and followed Benjamin inside. That, Benjamin said with commendation, was the correct decision. But I could already sense the phone vibrating again. Ethan wasn't surrendering readily. 1 week later, I sat at Benjamin's kitchen table with my morning coffee and the Springfield Gazette, feeling more serene than in months. The past 7 days had transpired quietly. No urgent calls from Ethan. No theatrical crises demanding my prompt attention. Just quietude from the dwelling I had helped acquire and the son I had nurtured. The automatic payment annulments had all executed. Service interruptions should commence any moment. At 9:32 a.m., my phone disrupted the morning peace. Ethan's name on the display quickened my pulse, but I maintained my voice steady. "Hello, Ethan. Dad." Thank heavens. His voice was taut with annoyance. "Our broadband is out. Totally gone. I contacted Comcast and they're claiming something about terminated service. But that's absurd, because it's supposed to be autopay." I took a deliberate sip of coffee. "I terminated the autopay last week." Silence. "Then, you what? I'm no longer funding services at a dwelling where I'm not accepted. You said you wished to live without me. This is what that entails. But you can't just..." Ethan's voice broke with real puzzlement. "I didn't realize you were funding broadband. I thought it deducted from our account." The naivety in his voice might have been endearing if it weren't so telling. 4 years of autopays, and he had never once queried the money's origin. "You never inquired," I said plainly. "We'll correct it. Contact them back and reinstate the service. I operate from home today, and Sophia has appointments scheduled." "No." The word lingered in the air like a tangible entity. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I'm not funding your broadband anymore. You're adults who desired autonomy. I'm granting you precisely what you requested." I could hear Sophia's voice in the background, elevated and distressed. "Tell him the security setup isn't functioning either. The panel is just blinking red. The security setup, too." Ethan's voice rose in pitch. "Dad, you can't just leave us unprotected." "I'm not leaving you without anything. I'm merely no longer supplying things you can afford yourselves. But we lack funds for all this. Do you know how pricey broadband is? And security systems?" There it was, the reality he had never confronted. "Then perhaps," I said composedly, "you should have considered that before deciding I was a burden." Sophia seized the phone. I could hear the transfer, the clumsiness, then her piercing voice. "Jasper, this is absurd. You can't just sever vital services. I have, and I did. What else did you annul?" Her voice grew shriller. "What else are you withholding?" "I'm not withholding anything. Sophia, I've simply ceased paying for services in a home where I no longer reside." "But you must grasp our circumstances. Ethan's income doesn't encompass everything, and my job is intermittent. Then you have an issue to address." Ethan reclaimed the phone. "Look, Dad, perhaps we can arrange something. Maybe if you relocate back, we could establish guidelines." "Guidelines," I nearly chuckled. "You mean like the guideline where I cover all your invoices while you treat me like refuse?" "That's not..." "We didn't intend..." "You intended precisely what you uttered. Ethan, you labeled me a burden. You informed me you wished to live without me. I'm merely honoring your desires. But we require assistance. We can't manage all this independently." That sounds like a personal dilemma. The connection went silent except for subdued quarreling in the background. I could envision them in their flawless kitchen, in their flawless home, realizing their flawless existence was constructed on a base they had just undermined themselves. "Dad," Ethan's voice was diminished now, almost beseeching. "Can't we just overlook Christmas occurred? Can't we return to how things were involved, esteem and gratitude? When you're prepared to provide those, we can discuss." I disconnected before he could reply. Benjamin appeared in the kitchen entrance, coffee cup in hand. "How did that proceed?" I smiled, genuinely smiled. "Stage 1 is finished." My phone promptly began ringing again. Ethan's name flashed, persistent and insistent. I turned the phone downward and took another sip of coffee. "He'll comprehend eventually." "Or he won't," Benjamin said, seating himself opposite me. "Either way, that's his decision to make." The phone vibrated twice more, then quieted. In the silent kitchen, encircled by the ordinary sounds of a typical morning, I felt something I hadn't in 4 years. I felt esteemed. 2 weeks later, I was aiding Eleanor in organizing her shopping list when my phone rang for the 5th time that week. Ethan's name flashed on the screen, unrelenting as ever. I had been disregarding most of his calls, but Benjamin glanced up from his puzzle and nodded toward the phone. Might as well listen to what he says. Benjamin proposed. "Information is strength." I answered on the 6th ring. "Hello?" "Ethan. Dad." At last. His voice held a blend of relief and irritation. "Look, this has progressed sufficiently. Sophia has been sobbing for 4 days non-stop. You're ruining our anniversary period. And she's discussing delaying our special meal because we can't finance it anymore. Your anniversary is your duty to organize and fund, but we can't. Don't you comprehend the satellite disconnected mid-game during championship season? The security has been inactive for 2 weeks, and Sophia is frightened to be home solo. We've received alerts from the power provider, the water service." I heeded the despair in his voice, observing how he still presented everything as my dilemma to resolve. "None of that alters what you said to me on Christmas," I responded calmly. "For heaven's sake, Dad, that was just..." We were tense. You overcooked dinner and we reacted excessively. Can't you just release it? Can you uncook that turkey? Can you retract calling me a burden? Ethan's voice faltered. "Look, perhaps we can negotiate something. Maybe we were too rushed. You could return, and we could set some guidelines. Whose guidelines, yours or mine? Well, clearly we conferred. I mean, it's still our home." Through the kitchen pane, I saw a vehicle entering Benjamin's driveway. A known vehicle. "Ethan," I said deliberately, "are you calling from outside Benjamin's home right now?" Silence, then the noise of a car door closing. "We just want to converse, Dad. In person." The doorbell sounded. Benjamin arched a brow and headed toward the front, but I motioned for him to pause. "So, you thought you'd surprise me? It's not a surprise. We just need to settle this before we forfeit everything." I disconnected and proceeded to the front door, Benjamin beside me. Through the spy hole, I could see Ethan and Sophia on the porch, both appearing worn in the cold February air. I opened the door. Sophia immediately began weeping. Dramatic, deliberate tears that might have succeeded 4 months ago. "Jasper, please, you're ripping our family asunder." "Our family was ripped asunder on Christmas," I said evenly. "I'm merely accepting the new truth you forged." Ethan advanced. His face reddened with anger and chill. "This is ludicrous. Dad, cease this spiteful absurdity and help us mend our predicament." Spiteful, I sensed Benjamin step nearer behind me, a firm pillar of backing. Ethan, you informed me I was a burden. You informed me you wished to live without me. I'm providing you exactly what you requested. But we didn't intend financially. We just meant you desired all the advantages of my support without having to afford me basic human respect. Sophia's tears escalated. We're going to forfeit our home. Don't you care I care about the home I helped you acquire? But it ceased being my concern when you clarified I wasn't welcome. Benjamin cleared his throat. People, it's 15 degrees out here. If you want to continue this talk, you're welcome inside where it's warm. Ethan's jaw clenched. We don't need benevolence from outsiders. Benjamin isn't an outsider, I said. He's a companion who treats me with esteem. You might want to emulate him. Sophia glanced between Ethan and me, her deliberate tears yielding to real frustration. What do you desire from us? What will it require? A sincere apology would be a beginning, a genuine one. Recognition of how you treated me, and a pledge to alter. Fine, Ethan erupted. I'm sorry. Okay. Now will you assist? That's not an apology. Ethan, that's a deal. They lingered there in the cold, realizing their manipulation methods weren't effective. Ethan's presumptuous rage, Sophia's feigned tears, their attempted surprise. None of it swayed me. This discussion is concluded, Ethan said ultimately. Come on, Sophia. They turned and walked back to their vehicle, Ethan's arm around Sophia's shoulders in a display of solidarity that felt staged. As they reached their car, I noticed something white under the windshield wiper, something they hadn't spotted yet. A repossession notice. I said nothing as they departed, their crisis escalating beyond what they even comprehended yet. Benjamin closed the door behind us. That went as anticipated. Better, I said, watching their rear lights fade down the street. They're exhausting options quicker than they know. 3 weeks later, I was savoring my morning coffee over the financial pages of the newspaper when an unfamiliar local number appeared on my phone. I had learned to be wary. Ethan and Sophia had begun using alternate phones after I stopped responding to Ethan's usual number. Jasper Caldwell, I answered cautiously. Jasper, thank goodness. Sophia's voice was strained with alarm, none of her customary contrived charm. It's me. I'm calling from work because we... Take a breath. Sophia, what's wrong? Everything's wrong. Her voice broke with authentic anguish. We received the repossession documents, official ones. The bank demands $4,000 in overdue payments within 45 days, or they're seizing the home. I felt a twinge of something, not quite compassion, but awareness of how grave this had become. I see. And Ethan. She drew a shaky breath. Ethan lost his position last week. They said he had become unreliable, quarrelsome with colleagues. His jobless benefits scarcely cover food. Now I understood the desperation in her tone. This wasn't scheming anymore. This was real panic. That's regrettable, I said softly. Jasper, please. I know words were spoken, but we're going to forfeit everything. Our dwelling, our safety, our tomorrow. Ethan's been submitting applications everywhere, but with that reference from his former job. What exactly are you requesting? Sophia. Help us preserve the home. We'll assign you the primary bedroom. I'll prepare your preferred dishes every evening. You can make all the family choices. Whatever you wish. For an instant, I felt the old urge to intervene and fix all, but Michael Donovan's tale resounded in my mind. along with Benjamin's insight about repercussions and esteem. "Here's what I require," I said deliberately. "A sincere apology from Ethan. Not 'I'm sorry,' but 'or I'm sorry you felt that way.' A true recognition of what he said and how he treated me." "Okay. Yes, he can do that. I need a documented pact about how I'll be regarded in that home as an equal kin member, not as a weight or a visitor." "Yes, definitely. I need full monetary openness. I want to view your spending plan, your obligations, your earnings. If I'm contributing to this family, I have input in how funds are allocated." Silence on the line. Then, "Jasper, that seems prying." Prying, I nearly laughed. "Sophia, you're asking me to rescue your home. I think I'm entitled to know where my money would go, but our privacy—" "Your privacy was surrendered when you chose to treat me like trash while expecting me to finance your way of life." I could hear her breathing deeply, grappling with the fact that she couldn't have it both ways anymore. And there would be a trial phase. I continued. "I assist with this immediate emergency, but future backing depends on how you both conduct yourselves. One more event like Christmas, and I'm finished forever." Those conditions are really dominating. Jasper, those conditions are respectful, which is more than I received from either of you. But we lack time for bargaining. The repossession deadline is in 5 weeks. Then you'd better commence on that apology." The line quieted except for the salon sounds in the background. Dryers, chatter, normal existence continuing while Sophia's world collapsed. "You know what the neighbors are saying," she said abruptly, her voice resentful. "Mrs. Thompson inquired why the security firm vehicle hasn't appeared. The Millers observed our yard maintenance ceased. Everyone can see Ethan's car in the driveway all day because he lacks a job to attend." Embarrassing. I concurred. "This is our existence. Jasper, our reputation, our position in the community. Then perhaps you should have contemplated that before you demolished our family bond. You're really going to let us forfeit everything over wounded emotions. I'm going to let you encounter the consequences of your decisions. There's a distinction." She disconnected without further words. I sat there holding the phone, gazing out Benjamin's kitchen window at the snow-blanketed yard. A portion of me felt sorrow for them. I had never planned for Ethan to lose his position, but a greater portion acknowledged this as precisely what they needed. A clear comprehension of how the real world functions when you don't have someone else concealing your errors. Benjamin entered the kitchen, coffee mug in hand. That sounded fierce. "They're about to forfeit the home," I said. "Ethan lost his job. Reality is striking hard. And how do you feel about that?" I pondered the query honestly, like an instructor observing pupils learn a challenging but essential lesson. Benjamin smiled and lifted his coffee mug in a minor toast. Michael Donovan would be proud. 1 week later, I was assisting Benjamin in mending a fence segment in his backyard when I heard a car door slam in the driveway. Benjamin and I looked up from our task, and I felt my chest constrict when I saw Ethan approaching through the gate. He appeared awful, unshaven, clad in a creased shirt I recognized from Christmas Day, dark rings under his eyes as if he hadn't rested in weeks. This wasn't the haughty man who had expelled me. This was someone dismantled by situations he couldn't govern. "Dad," he said softly, halting a few feet away. No demands, no charges, just my name uttered like a query. Benjamin straightened, hammer in hand. "I'll be inside if you need me." "Jasper." "No," Ethan said swiftly. "Stay. Please. I want someone to observe this. I set down the fence post I had been holding. Observe what Ethan's hand trembled as he extracted a wrinkled paper from his pocket. The repossession notice. It's definitive. 28 days to pay or we forfeit everything. Where's Sophia? Gone. His voice broke. Relocated with her sister 4 days ago. Said she wasn't going to witness our life disintegrate because I couldn't mend things with you. I examined my son's face, seeing the fatigue, the defeat, the first authentic emotion I had witnessed from him since boyhood. Ethan, why are you here? Because I need to tell you something I should have said weeks ago. He drew a trembling breath. I was mistaken. Utterly, completely mistaken. About what? Precisely about labeling you a burden, about treating you like you were obstructing us, about accepting everything you did for us and behaving as if it was nothing. Benjamin resumed working quietly, his presence supplying the witness Ethan had sought. Continue, I said. I've been seeking employment for 4 weeks. You know what I discovered? Nobody wants to employ someone whose prior employer says they became problematic and undependable. I thought I was so vital at that firm, but they substituted me in 3 days. Ethan sat heavily on Benjamin's outdoor table, appearing older than his 38 years, and the invoices, heavens. Dad, I never grasped how much you were subsidizing. The home payment alone is more than half my former income. And then there's coverage, utilities, provisions, fuel, vehicle payments. How did you handle it all? By planning meticulously and prioritizing essentials. I never learned that. You always just managed matters, made troubles vanish. He looked up at me with something I hadn't seen in years. Exposure. I never valued what that signified until it disappeared. I leaned against the fence, waiting. Sophia said I should just swallow my ego and implore you to return. But this isn't about ego anymore. Dad, this is about admitting I was a dreadful son who treated the most benevolent man in his life like waste. The words suspended in the cold air between us. Benjamin had ceased hammering, listening. I called you a burden, Ethan proceeded, his voice strengthening. But you were never the burden. I was an adult who permitted his father to fund his existence while treating him like a nuisance. And now I'm an adult who's about to forfeit his home because he was too foolish and presumptuous to value what he possessed. I studied Ethan's face, searching for indications of scheming, for the rehearsed remorse I had heard in prior talks. Instead, I saw something genuine. Shame, regret, and perhaps the onset of true comprehension. What are you asking me to do? Ethan, help me preserve the home. Not for me. I know I don't merit it. But it's your stake, too. You helped acquire it, and I discarded your input along with your dignity. And in exchange, I accept your conditions. All of them. Monetary openness, respectful conduct, your participation in family decisions. Whatever you stipulate. For how long? However long it takes to demonstrate I've learned from this catastrophe. Benjamin set down his hammer and eyed both of us. Jasper, this sounds like a young man ready to reclaim what he lost. I felt something shift within me. Not forgiveness precisely, but its potential. 120 days. I said ultimately. A probationary period. You exhibit altered behavior, and I'll help you evade repossession. Ethan's relief was evident. What do I need to do first? Show me your complete monetary overview, every obligation, every invoice, every income source. Then we'll determine if this home is truly salvageable. And after that, you prove you understand the difference between being my son and being someone who deserves my support. Ethan nodded, rising from the outdoor table. For the first time in months, he met my gaze directly. "Thank you, Dad, for not abandoning me entirely." "Don't thank me yet," I said. "Thank me in 120 days if you've truly transformed." As Ethan walked back to his car, I noticed his shoulders weren't slumped in defeat anymore. They bore the weight of accountability instead, a burden he was finally prepared to carry. 7 weeks later, I stood in the doorway of the primary bedroom, my primary bedroom now, watching Ethan and Sophia organize their items in the smaller room down the corridor. The emblematic reversal felt appropriate, a tangible depiction of the new dynamics we had instituted. Ethan had honored his word. Every day for 7 weeks, he displayed the modified behavior I demanded. He secured a new position with a healthcare equipment company, lower compensation than his prior role. But his manager had already praised his diligence and demeanor. He presented me every paycheck, every invoice, every outlay. Sophia had returned after 3 weeks, swallowing her ego when she realized Ethan was earnest about fulfilling my stipulations. She still grappled with the new setup. I could see it in the way she held her tongue when she wanted to critique my choices, the strained smile when she sought my view on family matters. But she adhered, understanding that the alternative was forfeiting all. "Dad." Ethan appeared in my doorway, holding a stack of correspondence. Power bill arrived, $58 down from last month, because we're being more vigilant about consumption. "Good," I said, taking the bill to examine. This was part of our pact. I viewed everything before payment, had authority to veto any expense over $75. Also, Benjamin called. He and Eleanor want to come for dinner Friday to see how we're adjusting. Tell them yes, and ask Sophia to prepare that stew they relished last time. Ethan nodded. The former Ethan would have resented being asked to convey requests to his wife. This Ethan grasped that respect was reciprocal, and I had earned the right to have my preferences respected. That evening, we sat for our first relaxed family dinner since before Christmas. The table was arranged with care, my chair at the head where it belonged. The discussion included my opinions on Ethan's work situation and my suggestions for their spending plan. "I've been thinking," Ethan said over dessert, "about what you mentioned regarding public recognition." I raised a brow. We had discussed this as part of my conditions, some acknowledgement of what had transpired and how it had been resolved. "I'd like to have Benjamin and Eleanor over next weekend. Maybe invite a couple of the neighbors. I want to publicly thank you for your forbearance and acknowledge how wrong I was about everything." Sophia shifted uneasily, but didn't protest. She had learned that her ease was no longer the main factor in family decisions. "That sounds fitting," I agreed. The following Sunday, Benjamin and Eleanor joined us, along with the Millers from next door and Mrs. Thompson from across the street. Ethan had prepared statements, but when the moment arrived, he spoke from the heart. "I gathered you all here because I need to publicly acknowledge something," he began, standing in our living room with a firmness I hadn't seen from him in years. 4 months ago, I treated my father appallingly. I took his generosity for granted and repaid his sacrifices with cruelty and disrespect. I watched the neighbors' faces, seeing their astonishment at Ethan's candor. My father could have dismissed me entirely. Instead, he taught me the most vital lesson of my adult life, that respect must be earned, not demanded, and that appreciation can't be presumed. He looked directly at me. "Dad, thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for teaching me the difference between being entitled and being grateful." The room was silent for a moment. Then, Benjamin started applauding. and the others joined. Mrs. Thompson dabbed her eyes with a tissue. After everyone departed, I sat in my comfortable chair in the living room, the best chair, positioned where I could view both the television and the front window. Ethan and Sophia were in the kitchen tidying, their voices low and collaborative. The home felt peaceful in a way it never had during my first 4 years here. The difference wasn't just in the altered living arrangements or the monetary openness. It was in the respect that now underpinned every interaction. My phone buzzed with a message from Benjamin. Proud of you for imparting that lesson without demolishing the relationship. That required real insight. I smiled, setting the phone aside. Justice hadn't necessitated vengeance. It had necessitated forbearance, firm limits, and the willingness to let natural consequences perform their task. Through the kitchen doorway, I could see Ethan and Sophia working together to complete the dishes. Tomorrow, Ethan would go to his job, a job he valued because he understood what unemployment signified. Sophia would manage the family budget we had all agreed upon, and I would continue living as a respected member of this family rather than a convenient patron. I picked up my newspaper, settled back in my chair, and allowed myself a moment of profound satisfaction. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to accept being treated poorly. Sometimes justice comes not from punishment, but from insisting on dignity. The house was quiet now, filled with the comfortable sounds of a family that had finally learned how to value what they had. And that was worth more than any revenge I could have planned. If you enjoyed this story, share your impressions in the comments below. What did you think of Jasper's journey? Let us know your thoughts. We love hearing from you. Ask questions to dive deeper into the tale, or spark a discussion. Your input keeps the conversation going. Interact with the channel by liking and subscribing. It helps us bring more stories your way. For the next captivating story, click the box on the left. Thank you for watching. We appreciate your time and engagement.